John, for a while, was called the bookstore bandit, and he's got a memoir that tells some of those tales of crime and now his new life. So please welcome John Espinosa Nelson.
Hi. The book is called Where Excuses Go to Die. Book is called Where Excuses Go to Die. It was published September 20th by High Rise Press, and I've got a couple of copies here with me if anybody's interested in getting themselves one. Boy, my kingdom for a backlight. Reader's Digest, large print. This is a story that we unfortunately did not. Oh, sure. This is a story that unfortunately did not make the cut of the book because, as they say, if it doesn't move the story forward, it's got to go. It's one of my favorites, and it may make the next edition. Journey to the Center of a Sandwich. Roscoe State Prison, Level 3, Yard A. The first bite tasted fine for a prison sandwich. I'd already given the thing a cell block once over, scanning for obvious stuff like bugs, dirt, and pieces of human. I also re-examined it as I made improvements. Contraband mustard, nips of onion, a tomato. In custody, firm fresh tomatoes are more expensive than chocolate, but they're worth it. Less valuable is the meat. Your average prison sandwich contains one compressed meat flap known in the civilized world as a slice. The problem with the flap isn't the plant where it's processed. Inmates already assume that to be fourth rate. It is, after all, a factory where pork discards and chopping dregs are blended into batter and pressure pumped into molds. So no, the problem is really detaching yourself from your Oscar Mayer memories. Mainly because prison meat flaps start out the same color grocery store bologna turns after it's been in the sun. Scab mahogany. Besides, Oscar Mayer products aren't oval. They don't have air bubbles, stretch marks, or the random knots of a pine plank. Their thickness is uniform. Oscar Mayer isn't for everyone, but everyone knows it when they see it. Be that as it may, en route to my clerical work assignment that morning, the onion, the cheese, the tomato, pickle, and 8 additional meat flaps only cost me a half a book of stamps, so I was feeling pretty fortunate. At my desk, after I'd whittled the tomato to chef's perfection with a disposable Gillette blade, my lunch had gone from lousy to outstanding. Considering the circumstances, that first bite was downright delicious. It was the second bite that nearly made me jump out of my chair. The instant I bit down, I felt something wedge itself behind my lower front teeth. No biggie. When I pulled the sandwich away to pry it out, my eyes didn't even leave the newspaper. But when the sandwich tugged back, I almost choked. There, down the length of my nose, was a white string leading from the bread crust to my face. It was more than a foot long. I slammed the sandwich down, my dignity still lassoed to it, and then reached up and tried to free my front teeth. No dice. I yanked. The damn thing was stubborn. When it finally did come loose, I saw how it had managed to wedge itself between 2 teeth that offered no gap. The string was pliable like a rubber band. What the hell? At first I thought it might be some far-out piece of cow ear, but how could it still be intact after the trimming and the grinding and the liquefying? Intestines are naturally strong, sure, but what explained its paper whiteness? How could I have missed it? To make matters worse, the damn thing was starting to look familiar. I lifted the top piece of bread, removed the tomato and the onion, set them aside. The first 2 flaps looked fine, ditto the mustard. And I inspected the cheese just as closely. Again, normal. As if dismantling a bomb, I excavated down to that last piece of meat. Still nothing. I eyeballed each crumble of bread, even the butcher paper the sandwich had been wrapped in. But when I flipped that last flap and found more of the white string embedded in its underside, I suddenly felt like I'd been reading small print in a moving car. The string was coiled, molded into the slice. Now, it takes a lot to get disgusted when you're locked up with men obsessed with rodents, ailing dope fiends, cutters, spitters, dirt eaters, spastics, and the horrifically cankered. But I was ready to scream. Instead, I grabbed the string and pulled. The flap dragged across my desk. I pulled it again, and it lifted and dangled, so I seized it and twisted it free. It left a swirled impression as it came out of the meat. "Oh, come on," I shouted as I flung the thing away. For as many bars as there are in prison, you don't want any of them raised, ever. Now, I didn't know what this thing was, so I sat there looking at it for a minute, and then it clicked. Afraid to look, I pulled my belt forward and sucked in my belly. Pulling my underwear up to the light gave me my answer. No, no way, no, no! It was one of the 8 rubber cords that make up the elastic waistband of prison-issue boxers. But never mind that detail. This meant that we'd been entirely wrong, that our sandwich meats weren't made in an off-site factory. They were made by the same creepy inmates who manufacture our goddamn underwear. And some disease-ridden lunatics frayed shorts had obviously gotten too close to the mixing vats. Someone had to pay. But who? What twisted, punchback, deviant son of a bitch would throw a filthy piece of his underwear into what was to become my lunch? And holy crap, only minutes before buying those extra meat flaps, I'd been having a conversation with a guy who I knew hadn't changed his underwear for 2 months. I looked to where I'd thrown the flap, shuddering at the greasy trail leading from the light switch to where it lay at the baseboard. For a second, I debated. Then I shrugged, took aim at it with the rubber string, reassembled my sandwich, and chowed.